conversation with Louis C.K., Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, and Ricky Gervais.
It's a great
Yeah, and they were talking about their process, and I'm like, that's what I want. I want to talk about creative people and their process. And so we just had a sculptor on. We've had the head chef Nosh on.
Michael Morway.
Yep, Michael Morway. Musicians, artists. So we're always kind of, and I saw you guys. I'm like, perfect. So we're back here at the Craft Beer Cellar in Plymouth, Mass, in our impromptu studio. That if you hear a buzzing in the back, it's because there is a dehumidifier running because they had a little bit of a flood incident. And we are here with the cast and crew of the Mayflower Mayhem. And I would try to explain it, but it's kind of an unknown entity. So we're here with Drew, Healy, Kayte, and Jay. Who wants to, did I get that right?
Healy.
I'm sorry.
Healy.
I saw the look and I'm like, oh shit, I screwed it up. So who wants to take and explain what Mayflower Mayhem is?
Well, since this is a show about the process, let's hand it over to Kayte, the writer-director of the show, and maybe dive right into her.
Sure. So you wrote and directed Mayflower Mayhem. So the way it was explained to me through different people talking about it is that it is a medieval manor style show. Is that an accurate depiction?
Yeah, I guess I'd say like the medieval manor was very cabaret-esque, where it had a lot of sketch comedy, improv, as well as musical integration and live singing, live music, and it was very much audience participation, so it has all of those elements in it.
Okay, and I'm assuming you guys are from Plymouth, which is why you chose to do a Mayflower.
No.
South Shore.
Close.
All
Yeah.
South Shore?
Yeah.
Okay.
People from the manor were from New Hampshire and Providence,
Western
Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Island, and then a few of us from the South Shore. But since it is a Mayflower theme,
So some of you are from the medieval manor.
we're all from the
okay.
medieval
That's the
manor.
key.
All right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm the only one not, but
All right.
everybody else, yeah.
So, Healy?
Yes.
Yes. What is your role in the Mayflower Mayhem?
So, well, just going back, all of us were alumni of the medieval manor, and we're very sad to see it close at the end of last year after 40 years of running, and many of us have been there for
My bachelor party
10
was there.
Was it
Oh,
really?
was it?
Yeah.
Great.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm divorced now, but I don't blame you.
I mean, it has a very low turnover rate. We were very much family there, and most of us have been there for years. And so, seeing it close was really saddening, obviously, to all of us. So I'm from Marshfield, and we had come up with, I had recruited Kayte and Jay and Drew, and we had talked about doing something pilgrim related, and came up with this show and sort of created it. Once we had a script in hand, thanks to Kayte and our creative collaboration, we realized that this could be something really big, that we could replicate something manor-esque here on the South Shore that was pilgrim related in Plymouth. So anyway, my role was just to, I think, since I came from Marshfield, was sort of one of a couple of us who were saying, we can't let this die down. We have too many creative people here. We need to come up with something else. And I'm playing a part in the show. But Kayte is a great creative writer, so we pinned the writing process
Now we're making her
specific on her. Jay is, and Jay will talk more about this, but he's a singer-songwriter. He was our minstrel at the medieval manor, so he played all of the songs. And Drew's been very helpful in that he's worked for. He currently is a food salesman for Reinhardt Food Products, but he has a lot of connections in the South Shore to kind of get us the venue and all of the food.
I mean, with any creative project, you kind of need a team, because you got to let the artists be the artists, and you got to kind of let the administrators be the administrators. And we kind of have, we all share, roles in the art and the administration process. It's been great having someone like Drew here that is in the food and beverage industry, that has managed clubs before. So, I mean, artists we're not always the best communicators to people outside of our field.
Right.
So to kind of have a middleman like this that can go to a venue and represent us and speak the language.
Nice.
Right. Speak the language of
Yeah.
that side of the industry. It's a
and
good
that's
key for
really
us.
an important thing. Is and we've talked about it before on the podcast, where artists aren't necessarily good business people.
Right. Right.
They are into their field, so you need that kind of expertise to go market
Right.
and
So I kind of stepped in.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah,
Oh, no,
I kind
no,
of stepped in
it's
as, I guess, business operations manager and associate producer, and creative contributor. But these guys are the real talent, and I'm just inspired by them every day.
Do you play a role in the?
I don't. I'm effectively going to be a stage manager that
Yeah.
night, and working with the venue, the Hotel 1620,
1620, yeah.
where it's taking
Yeah.
place right up the road from us here, and. So no, I don't have a role because you don't want to hear me sing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I can fumble
Maybe you
through some
do.
acts. maybe later tonight.
Yeah.
But also technically you kind of played all the roles because this was like my
True.
free writer's table. So we had
Oh, so you
many,
had the
many
table
meetings.
reads and
Oh yeah,
whatnot?
we had
Yeah.
table
Yeah.
reads and we had feedback after everyone, so that was super helpful. I wasn't just in a dark room like typing away. And then
She did a lot of that too, though.
I did that too. But then I was thankful that I got to bring it to them, and then I could hear the voices, I could hear them reading. So
Yeah.
Drew did a lot of reading of all the characters.
So-
Men and women, yeah.
And he played the everyday man and woman
Yeah,
to give his
exactly.
feedback too to
Yeah.
what his reactions would be to these.
Right.
It's funny too. We did a commercial and we aired it on WATD
Oh yeah.
about a month ago, and Drew steps right in and never done a voiceover before, and at the end of it, we're all like, "Wow, that was really good. That was really, really good."
It was fun.
They're gonna rope you in.
Come on
That's
down.
what's gonna happen.
You did take a course at the
Yeah, I took
School
voiceover
of Broadcasting, right? Yeah.
And Boston Casting, the voiceover classes. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Welcome aboard. Get ready to be broke.
That's why I have the day job. Doing that.
So, Kate, sorry. You wrote this. Is this your first venture into scriptwriting, or is this something
No.
you've done for a lot?
Yeah,
long
I
time?
have.
Yeah.
I mean, I was always writing when I was younger, and I would write. I have a lot of plays. And I've done a lot of playwriting classes at the colleges I went to, and this is the first time that I've written something. I've written a comedy, which is weird.
Yeah.
I feel like I've written short comedies, but this is like a full length comedy. So it was again inspired a lot by the characters that I had already had in mind that we were probably going to have in our show. So that was super helpful. So like picture and hear the voices as I was writing it. But yeah, I've written stuff before, but I've done a lot of devised work too, which is kind of bringing a bunch of people in a room and having them talk about their real life experiences and stories, and then turning that into a play.
Oh, okay.
So taking everybo's voices and making it into a production.
So, I've always heard that comedy is the hardest thing to write.
It
that-
is.
is
Yeah,
that
which
true?
I think a lot of the times I would start writing comedies and then they would turn really dark. Like, what is this? I probably need to go in and reassess. So, because I think, again, like they say, comedy is based off of real life, and they say a lot of the times comedians, the funniest comedians, have the darkest.
Yeah.
Well, I
lives.
feel like creative people in general are kind
Right.
of tortured souls and all
Yeah.
have their dark sides and whatnot. That's where we draw from.
Yes.
You know.
Great
And
insight.
this
Yeah.
show plays a lot on stereotypes, like, of like, your bro, your basic bro, or like your neurotic fanatic. So there's a lot of, it was easy to kind of play into those.
And does this play take place at the first Thanksgiving or when the Pilgrims land, or?
It's the boarding of the Mayflower, the trip over, very briefly, but mostly the settling.
Yeah.
So we wanted to play on the comedy of what a ridiculous situation to be in that time period. Get aboard this rickety old ship, and then to land at Plymouth and Plymouth Rock, and we know that the tourist attraction, Plymouth Rock,
Right.
is quite the absurd thing for people to come from all over to see.
To see a rock.
Right, and then
Yeah.
the comedy of just trying to survive. You know, I mean, obviously it was hard times, and you can go to Plymouth Plantation to find out that whole aspect of it.
Right.
But we kind of wanted to play off of the funny situations that might occur in that time period. You know, people are dying over simple diseases,
Mhm.
you know, and when you think about it, it's like to sign up for something like that, you got to be quite the interesting
crazy.
character. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's absolutely
nuts.
crazy.
You know, it's
Yeah.
it's like, and I don't think we think about that too often, but like you think about being on that boat, you have no idea, like you're still trying to figure out what the world is shaped like, kind of, you know, and
Yeah.
and to go over and do that journey, it just, I think we all thought this whole thing caters towards it's kind of ridiculous.
So, Jay, did you write the music for the?
I didn't write the music.
Okay.
So she picked a bunch of kind of classic rock songs.
Okay.
We have everything from some old swing tunes to some traditional, I want to say children's songs,
Okay.
to straight up
What's a
classic
children's
rock.
song?
This Little Light of Mine.
No, that's a sweet old song.
Yeah.
That's not it.
So do you play them straight, or do you kind of like rewrite the lyrics to fit into your story?
For This Little Light of Mine, actually needed to have a little bit of a rewrite,
Yeah.
but it was very incidental almost.
Okay.
Everything else pretty much played straight. Of course, we took the songs and rearranged them a little bit to fit the play itself and the characters and everything. And there's going to be a 3-piece band for it, so it should be interesting. I mean, it's certainly different than my normal musical undertakings, but it's that's I think what drew me to it in a sense, was that it's a break from everything you do, but still doing what you do.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, just a little bit of a general background of how you guys got. Well, obviously, you got together from the Medieval Manor, but like, where did you guys start before that? I mean, were you always in theater as kids, or?
Jay,
Healy.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Major theater geek here.
This is Healy. I grew up in Connecticut.
I just said your name wrong one time.
No,
you don't have to say it every time.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
Healy, you're up next.
Yeah.
Everyone make sure
Go
you
ahead,
introduce
Healy.
yourself.
No, I grew up in Connecticut and loved theater all my life, children's theater, high school, and then ended up going to NYU Tisch School of the Arts, where I graduated. But I moved to Boston shortly after that, and I had to choose, okay, do I pursue a career in theater in New York City, which was my ultimate, childhood dream, versus realistic, getting a job.
I'm sure it was Broadway.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then moving to Boston. Boston's an awesome town, and coming from New York, I fell in love with Boston. No offense to New York people, I love New York still, but the Red Sox,
Red Sox?
the Red Sox.
I heard Red Sox.
Yeah.
Too. I
Win
didn't
me
say
over.
anything.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but Boston is really one of, I think, the best towns to thrive in for the arts. I mean, we have major institutions, we have major theaters, we have great schools, but what we haven't been a label as an arts city yet.
Right.
So it allows us to kind of have the influx of arts and artists, but also allows artists to make a livable wage. You go to, I know in terms of a musician, you go to Nashville or LA, you're going to have a hard time paying rent. And then I think same thing for New York.
Because of competition?
Not because, well, it's because of the saturation of it.
Yeah.
There's so many people there. So you're in a place here where we have all these well-trained people. We have people that have access to the education in the arts. But we don't have so many people that venues can say, you're truly a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
So we are still valued to a degree, and I think maybe with New York, as an actor and an actress, you might experience a similar thing.
Right, because everyone has that same dream, so...
Right.
Get a little lost, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. When I grew up about 45 minutes from New York City, and I was actually.
I'm sorry, this is Healy, right?
This is Healy. Healy. I grew up about 45 minutes from New York City, and I was an original in a children's theater that had started there. With a current.
How old were you?
I was 4th grade with a current partner of mine. That we're doing some theater now on the South Shore, but partner, I mean business partner. I'll talk about that in a second. So, and that ended up being it's a huge children's theater right now in Norwalk, Connecticut, Crystal Theater, and that grew, and I was one of the first alumni there. But when I moved to the South Shore as an adult, there's some extraordinary community theaters out here that you go to New York when you're in Connecticut, you can just go right to New York. But here you're out on your own, and there's some incredible community theaters that I was involved with post
There's
graduation.
a theater down here in Plymouth. Let's see, Priscilla?
Yep, Priscilla Beach.
All right, yes.
They do a great job.
Yep, the Plymouth Community Theater. There's the Company Theater up in Norwell. There's a whole array of children's theater around the area. In adult community theater, Hingham Civic Music Theater. So I've done a bunch of productions since I graduated and came up here. But one thing that was missing was that kind of New York element.
Yeah.
So I did the Medieval Manor, and that sort of helped me kind of with my outlet in musical theater, but then also, went on to pursue a regular career and have a child and pursue motherhood and all of that. But recently I have paired up with an old childhood friend of mine from Norwalk who went on to be on Broadway and work with Disney, and we've started a children's theater here in the South Shore just a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yes, and so we're bringing in some New York Broadway talent. Keep knocking over some things here. So we bring in some New York professional talent and have gotten some Broadway professionals to sing, and have recruited kids from across the South Shore to come sing with them. And
that's great. Now, where's that theater?
Well, we started at Studio G in Plymouth, and now we're performing this November at the Spire Center for Performing Arts.
Yep. You'll be hanging their art.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So I believe the system just went up just the other day. So,
oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
It's called Break a Leg Theater Works.
Wait
So, yeah.
BreakAlegTheater.com. Check it out.
It's grown. We've seen about 50 kids already. So just in that time period, and that happened right before we started with creating for the Mayflower Mayhem show.
Yeah.
But that just got me inspired to start doing more on the South Shore, especially with the closing of the Manor and the connections that I've started to make on the South Shore with Break a Leg Theater Works. That
I've talked with several people, and it
that.
seems like Plymouth is on the verge of kind of really exploding into the arts. I mean, they've always had an art community, but it just seems like the more people I meet, the more that's going on. With the Spire opening up, and clearly the 1620 is interested in doing things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They had a Chamber of Commerce art show there earlier this year. It just seems like there's a lot of potential of things going
Absolutely.
on.
And
with that show theater, that's the first I've heard of it, but
what's
that's
really
awesome.
funny is my colleague Kyle Rentz, we at the Spire, I guess this past summer, the Spire hosted Americana Music Theater for Greece, and it turns out that Kyle went to college. My colleague went to college with the owners of Americana, and
cool.
are very, very well connected. So it's just this intricate connection of talent around the South Shore, and it's just great to expand on that. But I know Kate and Jay, well, Jay especially too, has extensive
So Jay,
persona here.
you're are you a local original?
I am Weymouth born and raised.
Weymouth born and raised?
Yeah.
And so you're a musician and songwriter and clearly an actor being...
No. Far from that.
So if you played the minstrel, then that's not considered acting?
Plays in air quotes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's pretty much me in a costume hoping that it goes over well.
Yeah. So how did you get started with that?
I made a lot of bad decisions, and no, I don't know. I think I've always loved music. There's always kind of guitar kicking around the house, and I've been involved with music as long as I can remember. I actually went to school in Vermont for business, and ended up stopping going to school, much to the dismay of my family. But I found myself more interested in the arts. I started playing with the band up there. I was starting to work, that a little bit, and just I'd always would rather be hanging out with the band and playing and doing that than go to class, really. And
right. Yeah.
so ultimately I stopped going, and then I learned very quickly that I'm not in school. I'm doing really crappy jobs to pay rent in a place that is really bad. And I kind of came home from Vermont trying to figure it all out. Definitely came home with my tail between my legs a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I said I'll apply to Berkeley, and applied to school. Didn't get into that, so that was kind of a big blow to me at the time. But then it kind of put me in a position to work a little bit harder at what I was doing, and I met a friend who at the time was dating the artistic director for the Medieval Manor. So I went in and auditioned and got the gig as the minstrel, and I had really no idea what I was doing. I never really had interest in theater, and then found myself working in the Medieval Manor.
You just kind of fell into it.
Right, and I remember my first night, we had a sold-out house, and the way the minstrel, as you know, opens the show, it's just you on stage, you and a guitar, and thinking, oh my God, why did I even get myself in this? But I realized, wow, I'm actually making something for myself here off of music, which was kind of, playing with the band in Vermont. At that time it was like $50 every every here and there.
Right,
and I
yeah.
was working at the Discovery Channel store and was doing handyman work for this crazy Greek guy. So it's kind of all over the place. And then, with the Medieval Manor being as steady as it was, and I decided to move back up to Vermont, and so I was driving back and forth from Vermont to Boston every weekend.
Bit of a hike.
Bit of a hike for about 2 years. And finally I said, I can't do this. I'm going to go to Boston. I know I can. And I was doing a lot of gigs at the Manor at the time, and then kind of started the singer-songwriter thing, which I never really had an aspiration to do.
Yeah.
I never enjoyed singing, but because the Manor was a great environment to start singing a little bit and peep into the microphone every now and then.
Right.
And in years of that, I kind of grew to enjoy it and began writing more, and now I do it full time, and I love it most days.
Do you play? I mean, outside the Medieval Manor and Mayflower Mayhem, do you have a band and play out?
I do have a band sometimes. I mean, I mostly do solo stuff, and for about 7 years now, I've been making my living solely off of playing.
Nice.
So, busy times, I'll gig 6-7 nights a week. Some gigs are great, some are not. Sometimes I do it with the band, do a little producing and booking on the side. And I really love it. I mean, as you guys all know, the arts is the type of thing now. It's very hard to make it as an artist. And like any business, it's good to diversify in what you do. It's good for your connections. It's good because it gives you other legs to stand on. I mean, even in Plymouth, as a performer, in the summer, you can't play in enough places.
Right.
Then this time of year comes,
and everything kind of trails off.
Everything trails off.
Sure.
So if you don't have your ins with a lot of different avenues of it, it can get a little tough at times. But now I think the past 2 years, I feel I've really started to feel the fruits of the labor a little bit, and there's some nights where I'm like, wow, like I've worked really hard to get where this point is, and I'm satisfied with it. It's a small percentage of the time though, and I think being satisfied all the time is probably death to the artist.
Yeah.
You gotta.
You just gotta always strive to be
Right.
better. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're never truly happy.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of your background. So at what point did you guys decide to kind of take the show on the road down to Plymouth here, and like whose idea was it?
It was Healy's. Yeah.
Healy. Yeah, Healy and I had conversations about doing something, and the impetus really was the closing of the Manor, and say, hey, this might be a good time to launch something. Like they already described, they're very much a family. And I'm a big fan of the Medieval Manor and saw it several times, and was always thrilled with what I saw and experienced. And the conversation was like, hey, maybe we could do a some kind of show down in Plymouth, and maybe it's a variety show, maybe it's a Pilgrim Day show, maybe it's a pirate themed show. And we started tossing around ideas, and then we finally came to the table, the four of us, and said, Healy recruited Kayte and Jay, and others from the Manor expressed interest in getting together. And the idea was born, and we've been working on this 8-10 months easily.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still pretty quick.
Every week.
We met every Tuesday for a little while just to kind of brainstorm some ideas, and had another gal from the Manor come down too and had some really funny tidbits, and we just kind of tossed around ideas. I know Kayte and Jay took the old Manor script and looked at it and analyzed it, 'cause things had evolved a lot since that original script, but talked about what made this work and what didn't work, and how could that parallel with something with the Pilgrim theme. And once I think, I have to just say this, I hope it's okay, Jay, but I think Kayte was a little bit more on board. Yeah, Kayte was a little bit more on board with this idea, as was Drew. So I remember, and Jess came originally, another gal from the Manor, and we had kind of thrown around ideas. Well, Jay was a little bit distant on another couch, kind of listening in a little bit. But as we started tossing around some really funny ideas, I remember him getting closer and closer to the table, and within a couple weeks, he was up there like contributing ideas, really falling in love with the idea.
He loved giving his opinion.
Yeah. He really was.
She threw him under the bus.
Right. But he had great input, with the run of the show and all of that. So it really was a great collaborative effort. And I'll say, Kayte, every Tuesday we meet, we come up with some great ideas. We try to, think about what worked, what didn't work, and come up with some funny audience participation bits. And then Kayte would come back with a phenomenal script with character involvement and all of that from her experience. I don't think you've talked about Emerson, but she's a graduate of Emerson and she's done so much work with that. So she's brought in all of her knowledge and talent with that. And then we would give feedback. So the script, it was very organic in nature. It was just, running around some ideas around a round table, literally, and a little Bob's Furniture round table at my apartment. But,
right.
And it evolved, and it kept evolving, and we all got more and more excited about it as we had a collaborative vision and how funny it could be and how it could work.
And have you been hearing like a lot of buzz from people here in town? And
it's definitely getting there. Yeah. I mean, and the first success that we had is once, I think, especially Jay and Kate, they're very connected to the other Medieval Manor alumni, and once they were excited about it, the alumni got excited about it, and we were able to get them on board with it. And now I feel everybody, like, their heart's just in it, and it's really great for all of us. Maybe a little bit of a selfish, but in retrospect, it's going to be great for everybody. But among all of us, it's really helpful it's really nice for all of us to get together again and collaborate with something like this because we just loved our family.
And there was nothing like it on the South Shore.
No,
either,
it's one of the most unique things I've seen around town here.
It just made a lot of sense. Once we decided on the Pilgrim theme and came up with the script and the idea, we said, of course we have to do this in Plymouth, and that's when I set out to find a venue. We all did. We searched all over the South Shore, and the folks over at the Hotel 1620 have been fabulous. It's really great.
I've heard they've been very supportive of local businesses.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
And acquaintance of mine just opened the Local Yoke.
Okay.
A little breakfast place, and 1620, even though they have their continental breakfast, send their guests to the Local Yoke.
That's great.
So they're very supportive of people, and there's a really good vibe about that in all of the general area. Like all these bars could easily compete against each other, but they're all friends. And you'll go to the New World Tavern, and you'll see the owner of the Driftwood there, and you'll go to the Driftwood, and you'll see someone else there, and it's a really good community, and everyone kind of watches out for everyone else. It's really great.
Yeah.
So it's pretty.
Well, one of the best advice I've ever got in the arts was there's room for everybody. And when you think about it, it's really true, because when you think about shows and this type of thing where it's not you either like this and that's the product you use, it's you can be fans of so many different musicians, so many different plays, so many different productions. So it only makes sense to share. And I think the restaurant industry is the same thing. There's no reason for people to say, this is my bar and this is it.
Right. Especially in a tourist area like this.
Right.
There's plenty, people go around. So.
Right.
So what are the dates for the shows? There's 3 shows, correct?
3 shows right now. First show is Thursday, November 17th. We've got a few tickets left for that. The next show, Friday, November 18th, sold out, 150 people. And we just added November 26th, Saturday. So if you're looking for something to do just after Thanksgiving, families in town, and relatives and other, and they're starting to drive you crazy.
Is it a family-friendly show?
We say,
PG-13?
It's PG-15, 16, and we say, what's the old man are saying, but our saying too is if your kids understand the jokes, it's not our fault.
Right. Okay.
But, there's definitely some sexual innuendo and some silly humor, potty humor here and there, and it's a good, fun ride.
And if people wanted to get tickets, where would they get them?
MayflowerMayhem.com.
Excellent. So the Medieval Manor, you guys have been there. How much of that show is improv, and how much was scripted? Did you frequently go off script?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Frequently a lot of off. It's funny that when looking back at the old script, you realize what a true skeleton it was, and I think so much of a show, any show. I don't really have the experience in true theater plays to say this, but I think the writing at the Manor, I don't want to divulge too much, but let's say the talent that we had at our show was really able to take something small and make it really big. And that, I think, was kind of a key element to what made that show succeed, and what we think will make this show succeed as well. ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide the framework for our talent to stand on.
Yeah.
You know, and Kayte's done a great job with giving that framework.
I think a lot of the process of us writing it in general was based off, like, a lot of the time they had to, because I've written so many plays that they were like, right, but we have to keep in mind that we need to bring the audience members on stage. Or we have to keep in mind that there's going to be a clap. We're going to clap after this. And I'm like, I'm not used to that. That's weird.
Right,
Why
yeah.
would people clap after somebody did something? It just seems to me like that a play should have, like, characters that all change throughout. And there's a story arc and then a conclusion. So a lot of it is a mixture of that with the improv elements as well.
Yeah.
So it is very much a mishmash. It's a little bit more structured as far as character development goes and plot and through line. But I think the original script did have, of the manor, did have a through line, did have a plot, did have really developed characters. And then over the years it's changed where it was like, where it was small sketches here and there, and it kind of developed into this big improv piece, I think.
It's definitely more plot driven than the manor
Right.
was.
Yeah.
Character driven than the manor was.
Right.
It's a hard line because,
It sure is.
you know, to keep an audience that engaged, especially in this environment, you know, the give take, the here's an idea and the response from them, whether it be, you know, an applause or otherwise,
Right.
you know, that's what builds a rapport. And by the end of the show, everyone feels like they're on the same page. And that's something that really over the years, I mean, the manor had the luxury of having a constant run in its own space. I mean, that's a very unique thing that place was. But we had that rapport down to a science. You know, when you're getting night after night of groups of people from all walks of life with all different expectations, and kind of what we felt was the more opportunity that we gave our audience to respond to us was the closer and faster we could become tight with them and get on the same page. And I know personally, like I said, theater's never been my big thing, but I found myself going to a lot of plays that are great shows, great productions, great stories, everything is spot on, but I find myself halfway through being like, I just, you know, I feel it's like there's just no release. Even when I'm excited about something, it's like, it's not the right time. Everyone needs to,
Right,
you know.
Oh, yeah, that's
Well,
that's
a-
opportunity.
yeah.
And they're like, Jay, it's a blackout. She's just a regular blackout. Nobody even see the clap.
So I'm not gonna lie. When I went to the medieval manor, I was expecting more of what's the Vegas one?
Medieval times.
Medieval times. And so I'm like, what? There's no sword fighting. What is good?
Where's the joust?
Yeah. So did you, so you said a lot of people expected that. Did you ever find that there were difficult crowds or like how? That's a yes. I feel like that's a yes. Like how do you?
I mean,
Well,
every show
Yeah.
had people who loved it. So
Yeah.
that was one thing, is you're just never going to fail. You're always going to have people who were loving it and participating. But definitely,
Did you get like heckled?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's no, you know.
It was
people
welcome
were-
there. You know, it was
Yeah.
kind of part of the formula.
You have an
Okay.
expectation. It's medieval. Just
Yeah.
like you go to King Richard's Fair and you expect to see how everyone's dressed, the way that they're dressed, the way that they act, and like the voluminess of it.
The
So
wor-
people kind of went in with an
Yeah.
expectation that they were allowed to do and say whatever they wanted.
Exactly.
The worst show I've ever experienced there, every now and then we do these private parties. And, you know, the classic example of a private party would be maybe a corporate group comes in, everyone's trying to be on their best behavior, they don't want to act out in front of the boss.
There's always that one guy that doesn't have a job on Monday.
Yeah, but we had this one private party that came in, and it felt like we were performing for the mob. And there must have been like 18 people, and there's 8 of us on stage, so there's like more people running this than there are in the audience.
Yeah.
But these guys, like, they were tipping very well, but it was kind of thing that, like, we're just gonna throw money at you so we can just degrade you.
Yeah.
Degrade you. And
Degrade us.
and it was horrible. I mean, I remember being 20 minutes into the show and just be like, oh my god, this is terrible. And you every now and then you got people like that just didn't want anything. They didn't want to play along. They didn't want to, you know, they wanted to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, 99% of the time, even when we got those groups, we could win them over.
Yeah.
But on very rare occasions, we would get those people that just didn't want, they just want nothing to do with it. You know, we need anything to do. We don't care what or where it is. We just need a place to go to be obnoxious, and they chose
You
that.
just happen to be the lucky one.
And we just happen to be the lucky ones. But I mean, that's a small example of literally millions of people that were entertained there that really had the time of their lives.
So the one question that I'm sure everyone who's been to Medieval Manor and plans to go to Mayflower Mayhem is going to have: do they have to ask permission to go back?
I knew that was coming up.
Sure.
Like, what is it? What?
It would be funny if they did.
What do you think?
Like, how did that come to be? Was it just a traffic flow issue?
I think it was, wasn't it?
I have no idea.
No, I think it was the whole vibe of the king is in charge. Whereas like our
He's holding
funny enough,
Because like sometimes you had to ask, and then other times like the side could go and that side
yeah,
could
it
go.
was
So
fun. It
yeah.
was fun. It was fun.
fun
to
out.
do.
That was part of the ad
I don't know if our
Yeah.
captain this time around is very assertive. Our captain's a little.
I mean, you know,
The actor or the character?
Well,
Weirdly enough,
strangely enough,
one of the kings that was
Yeah.
at the manor who is now our captain. So
that we know where the real history of that came from. But the fact that it was a continual dinner theater, you would
Yeah.
expect those audience that came for big bachelor parties or this and that and expected to be rowdy. So part of it was probably a bit of audience control.
crowd control.
You know, whereas here, these contained, 3 shows, and they are more plot driven. So we're hoping
so
to not
we think.
expect, as much of that rowdiness as people will be interested in seeing what the actual show is going to be.
I'm just worried that our patrons aren't going to have anything to dress up in. Because all of our patrons, like, a lot of our patrons would come dressed up.
I don't know, you might be
Medieval.
surprised by
really?
So I'm
that.
wondering what they're going to
Yeah,
come up with
Pilgrim
for
era.
this show.
So is there dinner served along with this show?
I was just going to say, I don't think we made that clear.
No,
I was
we
just
didn't.
about to jump in there. Similar to the Medieval Manor, there will be a big feast. We've got a 4-course meal planned, and like the Medieval Manor, again, the cast and crew, really the 6 men and women that are in the cast and in the show, will be serving you your dinner. So after about 15-20 minutes each break, after each set, we'll take a little break, we'll have a course of food, servers will come, make a connection again with your table. It's a wonderful opportunity for them to engage them and answer questions and just have fun with their tables.
Is it same served like in that family style, no utensils?
No,
kind
there'll
of-
be utensils.
Okay.
Again, the Hotel 1620 has a great reputation, and they certainly want to execute on a high level. And,
Right.
And even if we wanted to do, no utensils and even their hands, they, of course, would feel a reflection of them, and
Right.
they don't want to have a negative reflection. So
No,
anyway,
makes sense.
they're going to do it right. They'll be knives and forks and, individual plates, so it won't be that family style of service.
We do expect the food is going to be
Food's gonna be-
extraordinary, actually, for this show.
Wonderful autumn bisque soup and salad and a roast chicken dinner. They didn't actually have turkey at the first Thanksgiving.
Right.
I don't know if you knew that, right? So a lot of people know that.
And,
So-
and actually, a lot of this show is based around the fact that these publics didn't know what a turkey was,
Right.
and it's a funny
There
element
will
to
be
the
a
show.
turkey at the show, though.
Yes.
Yeah, there will be a
That's all we're
turkey
going to
every
say
episode.
about that.
Yeah, we don't want
right?
any spoilers.
Right, no
Yeah.
spoilers.
But it's going to be good fun for sure, and great food. Everyone's going to have a good time.
So one thing that we always do on this podcast is we talk about like influences, and so just kind of go around through like what is something that influences you to go into this. A little different for you because you're more on the management side, but
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess a lot of things. I'm a dad. I've got 2 young kids, and I see them getting enjoying theater and music and things like that. I've always enjoyed concerts and live music and entertainment and going to shows. So I've always had an interest in it for sure. I think it for me, because of what I've done, I was a hotel manager and private club manager for over 20 years.
Mhm.
So what influenced me in part here in particular was putting on events. I love coming up with events and producing events on a large scale, and I've planned and executed a number of weddings and events at private clubs to get hundreds of members to come and spend money at their own club. So we come up with these wonderful creative ideas. So I have a creative bent to me. And then I came to know these great people about 5 years ago or so now, and I've just been immersed in this world, and so I'm inspired by them. And then, as we talked about earlier, building on their creativity and their creative genius and talent, singing and acting and everything else, it's now something that I really feel great about being a part of. And if I can help in any way, I'm the guy behind the scenes. I'm pulling the strings. I don't know that I'm the odds,
and
but
that seeing it through your kids' eyes is something great.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
kids are both getting into the, my son's getting into music, my daughter's into art,
Absolutely.
and it's just
my son, yeah,
so cool to see that.
My kids go to Silver Lake High School here in Kingston, and both of them have participated in the Break a Leg Theater group with
Yeah.
the Healy runs, and Kyle, my partner. It's wonderful. Jack is, my son is in Les Mis right now.
Oh, nice.
So it's really just
Silver Lake High School.
Silver Lake High School. First week in December. But it's great. So it's been a lot of fun, and I help behind the scenes too with the Break a Leg Theater group. And so that's really my inspiration is surrounding myself with talented people and then helping them be successful. And that gives me joy and satisfaction.
In Healy?
Yeah.
So like who influences you? Like what was your inspiration? Either young or now?
I mean, younger, I grew up 45 minutes from New York City. I had a love for musical theater growing up. And my current Break a Leg Theater Works partner, Kyle Rentz, he and I were best friends growing up. And we would take whatever money we could get allowance-wise or anything, and we would hop on the train, and we would sneak into Broadway shows during intermission. I shouldn't really say that now, but,
Statute of limitations.
loved it. Yeah, we were so passionate. So I grew up, like, as just a very theatrical, passionate, corny person. But being at the Medieval Manor, I loved it. Like, once I got there, I didn't need to do community theater. I was sad because the talent and the passion that all of these people who were the castmates showed just filled me up. I loved it. At the end of the night, we just had this sense of satisfaction and this camaraderie and love, and it was just so inspiring every night. I just loved being there. So for me, it's more about building on that passion. It's funny you asked that because, when I first brought this idea up to Jay and Kayte, Jay is like, well, tell me why you really want to do this. And I said, because I want to do it. Like, it's just fun.
It sounds like you guys are so close-knit at the Medieval Manor.
We
Like, why would you
were.
want to give that up?
Exactly. I'm like, we need to continue this. We have so much talent. There's so much here to offer. Let's keep this love going. It's just, as corny as it sounds, it really is. I can see it in the audience members. There's just this kind of unspoken for magic that happens, and I wanted to try to inspire that to happen again in other venues. That's what my inspiration was.
Okay.
Right. Well, I was just trying to think about it, and then I kept changing my mind every time. Another sentence. But I do think that this particular show, the inspiration is that the question, or just life?
Just in general, like what
inspires you to be alive?
Keep on going.
Just
Yeah, why
in general,
breathe in
that
the morning?
inspires you to be a writer and performer. Is it a person, a specific story?
I think of this. So I moved.
You tell me what inspires
I will
you.
tell you. I moved a lot as a kid. A lot. Like 32 times before I even graduated
Holy shit,
college.
that's a lot.
So I moved a lot, and so I always was the new girl. And I
Yeah.
always had to kind of dive in and like meet new people, and everybody was trying to meet me, and I was observing so many different dynamics and cliques and groups. And I think theater was the only thing that kind of was everywhere I went.
Yep.
So I was just always in the theater club, and as I say, theater always accepts everybody. So, I might not have been good at sports, but you can't be bad at theater, but I guess you still get a part.
Oh, trust me.
Everybody, gets a part, and everybody gets to do something. And if you're not on the stage, you're doing props, or you're being, there's like so many different dynamics, there's a whole ecosystem of stuff to do, where people have.
Someone's got to operate the curtains.
Right?
Everybody has different roles.
And they are equally as important.
That's
Not going to be working the spotlight.
So I think after doing that and then starting, and I was always like writing to myself, by myself. I wanted to be an English teacher. So I started just kind of hanging out with the theater people, and I was like, I really love to write. What if I wrote this sketch, or what if I wrote this little play? And then getting everybody to kind of come together and want to be a part of one person's vision or a collective was really nice. So I went to see the Manor when I moved to Boston in the first month, I think, and I went with a couple friends, and I remember just seeing, I want to be a part of this, because it is unique. It was a unique experience, something I'd never seen before. It was just accessible enough to feel like I could go up to somebody at the end and like talk to them and ask if I could get a job, where I wasn't intimidated, where if I saw some big fancy play, I wouldn't know where to even start. So I went up to the artistic director at the end of the night, and he had said there was an opening for a wench, and I went and I auditioned, and I got it, and I was so excited, and I started 2 weeks later, and then I stayed for 6 years.
Been a wench ever since.
Been a wench ever
I was going to say, there's an opening for a wench. That just sounds so sketchy.
I would love that.
I can do that.
I feel
So
that-
inspired.
That's what they called me in high school. Wait, what?
So throughout doing and being a part of that was again just like Healy was like that fix on the side when you're at 5. I was also a photographer, so I was always into like visual arts and directing. I directed a lot in college, so I don't know. I guess the people, just being a part of that group, I think is what was
It's a wonderful energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when people are excited about something you do, it's obviously it feels great.
Yeah.
So when I was bringing stuff to them and I was like, oh god, this is going to be funny, and then they would laugh, maybe just to make me feel good, but they still laughed.
At the right place.
At the right place, yeah.
And not just at it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'd be like, this definitely doesn't work.
Yeah.
But
And
they
every-
also help me see that too, so.
Every once in a while we laughed at places you didn't think we'd laugh, and then we're like, hey, that's a great funny moment.
Right,
And
so-
people are going to love that.
So
My
nice.
favorite moments of rehearsal is when, we're going through a scene or say something and Kate keels over laughing.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
love
I'm the
that
only one
because
laughing.
she had a vision and then it's executed and I love that she's approving that it's like her vision for what is funny about what she wrote. It's great.
I know what inspires Jay. Tom Petty.
Yeah, pretty much.
Tom Petty?
I love Tom Petty. Well, that was one of the first shows I ever went to, and I won tickets to it. From VH1 when we had the call-in lines. I got 11th row.
Older.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it was awesome. It was at the old, when the Boston Garden was the Boston Garden.
Very cool.
And
Oh, like way back.
way back.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
it was quite a memorable experience.
Nice.
And now it's still just Tom Petty that inspires me.
Nice. My son.
No, it's more than that.
No, well, that's fine. Hey, Tom Petty's Tom Petty. But my son, this summer, this was like his summer concerts.
Yeah.
So like these were his first concerts.
Where'd you take him?
I took him to Jane's Addiction
Okay.
and Rob Zombie,
Okay.
and my ex took him to his
Rob Zombie is a genius.
phenomenal
in every
stage
sense
show.
of the word,
Just so great. I love
He's a
every second
genius,
of it.
yeah.
How old is your son?
My son just turned. He's 14 and a half now, so he's about to turn 15. Yes.
It goes by so fast, right?
High school freshman. It's
Crazy.
weird, yeah.
Wow.
But plays saxophone. He's in the marching band. And,
Nice.
Yeah.
We failed to mention that Healy,
No, we don't have to mention
Okay.
that.
No.
she
What?
was the drum major in her high school
Oh,
band.
nice.
Along with Kyle.
Along
my
with
business
Kyle, her
partner.
business partner.
Pictures, please.
Well, I was also
Go to
in
Break a Leg
theater.
Theater, you'll see pictures of them in high school.
So I've been exposed, like I've done theater and I was in band, and it's funny because my son picked up saxophone, and I'm like, I used to play saxophone. He's like, I didn't know that. You can teach me. I'm like, oh, it was a long time ago.
I played trumpet for 6 years. I could not teach
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah, no. So, and my daughter's been drawing now, and we had our first art show. She participated in that. So,
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see them kind of take that step. So, they asked me the other day, "Are you doing a podcast?" And I'm like, hell yeah!
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna record a
That'd be great.
podcast with them, so that'll be really interesting.
Get a bunch of kids in here and do a podcast.
Oh god, I don't know. I love my kids. I love my kids. Kids in
It's
general.
like-
Some of the kids, the kids who participate in this Break a Leg group, they're unbelievable. All, from schools all over the South.
Unbelievable.
From Pembroke to Plymouth.
Kids
to
have so much to
Duxbury,
offer, though.
Yeah.
I mean, in any venue, they're just
They're
so
fearless.
talented and uninhibited, and they're willing to go places that.
I'm finding my kids are making me laugh. I mean, they've always made me laugh, but now they're like funny.
Yeah.
And
Well, good for you. My kids just laugh at me.
yeah, my daughter got a honorable mention ribbon for this show, and a few weeks prior, she's like, we were out at lunch. She's got I love you. And I'm like, what do you want? And she's like, I really want to win. And I'm like, winners by lunch. And she's like, well, I don't have any money. I'm like, well, I'll tell you. So me and her brother are giving her a hard time. And so then we had gone to my friend's gallery in Carver to pick up some work. And so my friend there's like, Andy, would you like a cookie? Would you like a beer? And I'm like, see, this is what winners do. And she's like, I made you cookies the other day. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, you did. So she got the honorable mention, and my friend Carver didn't get an award. So my daughter, being my daughter, goes over and goes, hey Jesse, I got a ribbon. I guess my cookies were better than yours. It's like, she's just, they're quick. They're
Wow.
quick and they're funny. I don't.
Burn.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, damn, that's good. So this is. I'm actually really excited about what you guys have going on here. I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
So you're gonna come to the show?
You're wearing a shirt that says interesting.
It
That's
is,
why you said
but it
that.
says, "Oh God, we're all gonna die" right at the bottom.
Oh, well, that's
Oh, that
the
sounds
show.
familiar.
That's the show.
That's my character.
Yeah, nice.
Mary, yes.
It's
You make your
from
Mary
Firefly. No.
Yes.
Yep.
I
Mr.
have not seen that, but I've
okay.
heard of
Yes.
Firefly. Yes.
At one point, they're
friend of mine has
they're landing,
Yep.
and the pilot says, "Well, this is gonna get interesting." The captain says, "Define interesting." It's like, "Oh God, we're all gonna die."
Oh, wait, okay. Yeah, I have a friend who has 2 daughters named River and Summer.
Very nice.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Big
character
fan of
and then
the
the,
show. And the
the
actress.
Actress,
Yes.
yes.
Who I believe is going to be at Rhode Island Comic Con next week. I think. I might be wrong with that. I'm not sure. So yes, I did mean interesting in a bad way. I'm actually I'm interested in seeing it. And now that you've had a third date, I might have to. Knowing that there are now utensils, I'll be able to sell my girlfriend on it.
There you
because
go.
No,
otherwise-
might have to. You have to.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Oh,
be
yeah, absolutely.
fun.
Yeah, I've had several people be like, "We need to go to this." So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. So I hope you guys are going to have some great. I know you guys are going to have some great shows, and but I hope you continue. So I mean, is your plan to do it more? Because I mean, once we hit November around here, things kind of die down, obviously. But are you planning to do more next summer? Or?
We've talked about, basing everything off the success of these shows. We've
Yeah.
talked about doing something in the future, perhaps a different theme. This could be something that comes back annually. I mean,
Yeah.
we're really excited as all of Plymouth is gearing up for Plymouth 400.
Right, of course.
In just a few years from now, I mean, there's going to be such a spotlight on the town. But if we could continue to do this annually, it becomes a tradition, that would be fantastic. But who knows?
The former artistic director of the Medieval Manor, one of his dreams was to write a pirate show. I
Yeah.
think actually he has written one, and maybe there's been some talk, as I know it, of premiering that in Hull over the summer. So
Okay.
look out for
Yeah.
that because that is a potential.
Okay.
Yeah, but if this goes well, it could be an annual thing around Thanksgiving, or we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. That's great. I think what you guys are doing is fantastic.
Thank you.
So I'm glad we touched base and
Yeah,
had you guys
thanks
on
for
the
having
show.
us, man.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
And
Thank you.
if there's anything Inebri-art can do for you guys to help promote or scare up some people, we'll do what we can.
Cool.
Thank you.
So,
Great.
all right. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks. Have a good night.